Hello, my name is Pamela Suarez. I am 27 years old. My level of English is B1 more. The theme chosen for this presentation is "Sex work must be legal everywhere." Prostitution in Colombia is currently practiced without any specific regulation that allows this activity to be hide from the laboral, social, or economic scope. As a consequence, invisibility has been created about this occupation in a legislative way without any intervention by the government to carry out public policies associated with the improving of the living condition of the people who dedicate themselves to this employment, living inside the formulation of the programs magnet by the state and the local, as the provider of dignified conditions for those who have prostitution as a source of income. Prostitution is one of the best oldest trades in the world, and today in Colombia is ignored use and without dedicated socio-normative protection that dignifies such activity and allow action in a favor of sex workers, thus promoting and difference between an activity of abused or abusers, human traffic, and including child sexual exploitation. In Colombian, prostitution is not illegal, nor is a policized home weaver. As I know, there is no specific legal framework that regulates and protects people's rights who voluntarily engage in prostitution. It is necessary to consider prostitution and trade to go beyond simple provision of a service. I really involved on the merchant rights that belong to the personal and here of every individual, such as sexual freedom, human dignity, the right to work, among others. Prostitution is known as on the oldest trace in the history practiced since 7th century BC. In the zone of the Iberian Peninsula, women offered a sexual service to obtain donation that will allow them to maintain their religious worship, as the Walden prostitution was born as a thread link to the religious cults, and it practices some, but they keep the temples where they congregated. Now, the situation of prostitution and the people involved in this activity have historically been endowed with negative attributes that has been given to them through the history, causing numerous exclusive attitudes and behaviors governed by the inequality between genders. In this way, prostitution is offering of the scenario of the human sexuality of the satisfaction of the parties commercialized by men and women, linked to the dynamic context of sexual and economic change typical of the life contemporary. Society has different positions with respect to the people who carry out this work. In some sectors of society, have created a stigma that relates prostitution to immoral practice. The constitutional court is the ruling T-629 of the 2010, recognizes prostitution as a job and indicates that the labor guarantee of the any other trade must be respected. The Constitutional Court protects the rights of the sex worker of the review the case of a woman who was fired from the establishment where she proving her sexual service from the having become pregnant. The High Court protects to the right to work, to equality, to security, to the jurisdiction, maternal and the virtual meaning of the plaintiff, and the force and establishment in which the worker to the compensate her and pay the week salary from the maternity leave. Although she did no other reimbursement for consider that the work was against liberal principle of law. The court considered that although no there was a formal contract, yes, here was an employment contract. In This case is with protestation is exercise voluntary the sex work complicates with the depends on that activity insubordinate to a post and receive regular remuneration. There is an employment contract. The sentence 629 of 2010 invokes the constitutional principle that guarantees to the protection on the right of the people who belong to a traditionality discriminated group. According to the above, in the concluded that based of the fact that there is a pretexting in between the person who practices prostitution and the establishment where the work is carried out their force with owner to get together and demonstrate that all the elements of contract are met. There is no place and legitimity ignored for these office holds each and every one of the rights that any worker who carry on and practice trade or work or activity has human.